Hello, my name is Calvin Robinson. I'm from Defund the BBC. Today, I'm honoured to be joined by Andrea Jenkyns MP. Andrea, thank you very much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Calvin, and well done on what you're doing. Keep fighting.
Thank you, really appreciate that. We've had your colleague Ben Bradley on the other day, and since then, over the last few days, we've had Julian Knight and Philip Davies have called time for the licence fee. So do you think there's momentum building in the Conservative Parliamentary Party to scrap the licence?
I certainly do, but I think especially with the work that you're doing, there's momentum building in the country as well. I mean, as an MP, the amount of correspondence that we've had, I think the BBC has had this monopoly for too long, and they're inherently leftist and they're pushing that agenda all the time. And I know the number of interviews I've done where they're just so biased, they're there to set you up, and the fact that I feel that they're also teetering on the cancel culture as well, which I think they shouldn't be doing. I think if every penny of taxpayer-funded money goes to the BBC or any public sector organisation, it should have scrutiny. You
mentioned so many things there, but I think the core of it is they're just not making themselves very popular, are they? We've had comments from Country Life saying that Countryside is a white environment, perpetuating the theory of white privilege. Talking about that on Bite Size, their education platform as well. We've had the whole saga around the last night of the proms and the singing of Rule Britannia and Land of Hope and Glory. And we thought we might have to step in there and, just go and sing it ourselves. But is it appropriate for the BBC, given that their charter obliges them to bring people together and help contribute to social cohesion and well-being of the UK? Is all of this appropriate for them to be doing?
Certainly not. I think there should be a beacon of light for British culture. It's a British broadcasting corporation, rather than trying to be a nanny state politically correct role, which they've been doing recently. This has got to change. I think the majority of the public are behind you and what you're doing, and let's just get on and defund the BBC.
Okay, I like that. So you mentioned your constituents are writing to you as well. What do they feel about all this?
I think at first we get the odd one of older constituents who's worried. They're worried regarding what are we doing. They're thinking that we're trying to stop the BBC existing. So I think there's some confusion there. But the majority, and it is the majority who write to me, they are so frustrated on two levels. One is the licence fee, which is hard paying British taxpayers' money. And the second thing is actually the biasness of the BBC. And it's gone on for far too long, unchallenged. So, the work that you're doing and other groups, across the country, the more people we can get behind this, the better. And it's great to hear from you, Calvin, that, many of my colleagues has been on over the last week or so, because, we need to nail this. I think it's, and it's deeply regressive to give legal privilege to the BBC regarding the licence fee, because, it's always going to be the poorest in society who's going to end up at the magistrate's court for non-payment. And, why should we give legal privilege to the BBC? It's wrong. And there's so many ways that people can access and platforms that people can access good quality shows now that, they must be challenged to get with the times. And we need a lot better system than what we've got at the moment.
Spot on. You've mentioned the licence fee, and one of our main aims, of course, is decriminalisation of that licence fee by the end of this year. Now, Boris Johnson told Parliament last week that he would lay out a roadmap towards reforming the licence fee. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree, and can it be achieved?
Bring it on, and bring it on as soon as possible. I wholeheartedly support our Prime Minister, and yes, it can be achieved. And let's face it, we've got a majority in Parliament now. So now is the time to tackle these issues, which do affect people on the ground. And we've seen the backlog in magistrates' courts, where they're having to deal with, case after case regarding non-payment of the licence fee. It's hitting the poor, it's hitting the young, it's hitting the elderly. And it's wrong, it's regressive, and it's time to reform.
Spot on. And this issue with the magistrates' courts, they are clogged up. Yes. And it's disproportionately affecting women and the most vulnerable in society. It's completely wrong. So Defund the BBC have found that there is a lot of confusion about what is and what isn't covered by the TV license. Basically, it covers all live TV, any channel, BBC, Channel 4, ITV, Sky, Virgin, any French or Belgian TV that we can happen to get. So surely the scope of the BBC Charter is overreaching and it needs to be reduced in this digital age to just cover BBC content, right?
Yes, completely. And I do think, I can't agree more with you. But I also think as well that, let's just look at taxpayers' money's being spent on this. I think we need to look at, the BBC is so big, it's got so many arms out there, that we need to look at what is value for money for the taxpayer. Have we got value for money content? Is it good content? Because there's so many platforms out there producing good content that we also need to actually have a radical overhaul of that as well.
No, I think that's another good point about the value for money, because, the government gave BBC promises. The BBC promised to the government that if they could raise their fee in line with inflation, if they could charge for BBC iPlayer, they wouldn't have to start charging the elderly. And the BBC have gone back on that pledge, and they're now charging over 75s, and they're breaking that promise. Is there any way the government can hold them to account on that?
I think we need to hold them to account, and it's pretty disgusting, really. I mean, to be hitting the elderly, going back on their promises like that. So, let's withhold money from them until, that's what I'd personally do, and until they change their mind on this, because, they've gone back on this, and we shouldn't be hitting the elderly. I've got constituents who are deeply worried about this because, and my constituency isn't affluent, and I just think people worry about things like this, and we just shouldn't let the BBC get away with it.
No, in fact, they're targeting the elderly now, aren't they? They're targeting the most vulnerable in society, and that's wrong, morally bankrupt, I think. So what are your elderly constituents telling you? Because we're hearing about scam emails and letters, and our supporters are telling us that even those who don't watch live TV just on demand are being scared and worried, and they're receiving letters and enforcement officers at the door, all kinds of bullying, intimidation tactics. What are you hearing from your constituents?
I had a feeling, Calvin, that you would ask that. So I've actually got my team to send me, 2 or 3 actual emails I've had. Obviously, data protection, I will not mention the person's name, but it'll give you a flavour what people are feeling on the ground, but obviously what people are feeling on the ground. So, dear Andrea, I wish to express my dismay, anger and sheer disbelief that the BBC is to give nearly £100 million to the private firm Capita to chase non-payers of licence fees. This firm has already been found to have used aggressive door-to-door tactics and paying staff bonuses to hit targets. The BBC is now divisive, left-wing biased and anti-British, with poor programmes, poor management and a top-heavy and overpaid and mainly unnecessary so-called stars, experts and pundits. To begin a campaign of harassment against poor and vulnerable members of society is appalling. The corporation is totally unfit for purpose. And so, and it goes on to say, and is unfit for purpose, and it's time the government should take necessary steps to defund it and leave it to its chances in an open market. I've emailed the PM to express my sentiments. And then I'll give you another one here. Can I say I'm 79 years old and will not be paying the BBC any monies? Gary Lineker is worth 1.75 million, and I dread to think what Alan Shearer and Ian Wright are getting, complete waste of money, and I'd be taking my free-to-air aerial down. My father once said Labour are experts at spending other people's money, but I think the BBC is in this category. And then finally, you mentioned about the stuff that they was doing last night at the proms. I was very passionate behind with what you was doing with that as well. Now, so this regarding that then, so how dare the BBC think about non-playing of patriotic songs at last night of the proms, erasing our history? The BBC needs to be defunded by the public. Ever since the people voted to leave, the EU and the BBC have tried their utmost with propaganda to reverse it. The presenters are rude and condescending to any Leave voters. It's a dreadful channel, one I have not watched for months, and they run the government down at every chance. It's time to defund the BBC. Straight from my constituents, Carmen.
Absolutely love that. And I think what that shows is the BBC is out of touch with ordinary folks. And that's what we're hearing from the grassroots campaign on the ground. And it seems like you're hearing the same from your constituents. So all that's left for me to ask is, will there be a good level of support for this in Parliament, do you think?
I think from the Conservative Party, yes. I'm not so sure about the opposition parties, but look, we've got majority now, and I think it's time that we use it, to actually, because this is where, it hits people on the ground. It hits the poor with the license fee, it hits the elderly, and it hits the young again. And so it's time we defund the BBC, and I think we need to shake it up, and also shake up this whole woke culture. I mean, in my constituency of Morley and outwards, we're patriotic. We have a full weekend of St. George's Day celebrations. I'm out there every year singing patriotic songs, including Rule Britannia. And, we've got a great country. Our people are great. And, we must celebrate that culture, not dumb it down like the BBC.
What a positive note to end on. Thank you, Andrea Jenkyns, for doing everything that you're doing to help this cause. And thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for all you're doing, Calvin. Thank you.